I'm John General, and Editor-in-Chief at IPO Edge, here live at the IPO Summit at the New York Stock Exchange. I'm very excited to have not one but two guests from a really interesting company, 30 Madison. We have the CFO, Quan Zhang. Quan, thank you for joining.
Thank you, John.
And we have the President, Michelle Carnahan. Now, you two actually know each other from a previous life at Sanofi. You guys are both at a couple of big healthcare companies. Now you've gone and launched a startup. Tell us about the thinking that went behind that and how life has changed for you.
Yeah, so I think Quan and I both are really passionate about putting the patient at the center. So as we've started to work with 30 Madison, we're really about accessibility and affordability in healthcare, better patient outcomes, and just an all-around better experience. And so it's been really fun to build out that care model, working in both direct-to-consumer and enterprise play. And more than anything, it's just fun to work with people that you love to work with, like Quan and others at 30 Madison. We're very proud of the team.
Great.
Thanks, Michelle. And John, thanks for having us, first of all. And from my perspective, life has been quite exciting at 30 Madison. I'm quite excited that I can bring my financial management expertise, business operation experience, now in a startup environment that can elevate 30 Madison from a startup to a full-scale company for the future. Life has been a little bit different, I would say, even though being big pharmaceutical company versus a small startup, you have different operations, different scale, and different funding objective. Nevertheless, I think the fundamental common theme is the passion for our patients, which is what brought me to 30 Madison.
Great, and on that note, tell us what is the name? What's the origin of the name 30 Madison? I mean, we're here in New York. Very happy to be here, by the way. First time for me in a couple of years.
Oh wow!
Is it Madison Avenue? What's it from?
Welcome. So the company was founded at 30th and Madison,
okay.
and we've for the 4.5 years we've been in business, we've always had an office on Madison. So that's where the name comes from.
All right, perfect. Now, just tell folks who aren't familiar with the company about some of your products and services. Like what's just specifically what kind of offerings you have.
Absolutely. So we're really looking to tackle in healthcare accessibility and affordability, along with better patient outcomes and better experiences. And to do that, we've really put together a model, a care model that follows the patient journey. So all the way from asynchronous telemedicine to personalized treatment to ongoing condition management. We're focused in chronic conditions. We have about 800,000 patients who are active as of today, and everything from hair loss to migraine to women's health care.
I've got you. Now, tell me what it's like being at a smaller, nimbler company, I imagine, than one of these giants like Eli Lilly or Pfizer. Can you get things done more quickly? Are there advantages?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna let Quan speak to this too, because we've both got a ton of experience. At the IPO Summit today, I think we've heard every speaking group talk about it is about getting some of the fundamentals right. So, I always say that there are three big differences between a really large company and a small startup. The first is when you work for a really large company, you just kind of go in and ask for money. It's a little bit different in a startup, particularly now, as we're both learning. Secondly, though, processes. There are just more processes in large companies, maybe too many. So I think small companies can learn the process piece from large companies, and then to your point on speed of movement, I'm going to let Quan talk a little bit about that, because we've talked since we've come here. We thought we were busy in our jobs at Sanofi, and we were, but talk about the difference in speed.
There's definitely a difference in speed. I think from agility perspective, flexibility perspective, what you put forward, you see the impact right away. Either you're successful or you have lessons learned. So from a startup perspective, I definitely think the speed, agility, and impact you feel immediate oftentimes.
Yeah, and it's also, I think one of the things I love about startup, it is the ultimate accountability. To your point, when it goes really well, it's you and the team and you get it, and when it doesn't, it's you and the team and you get it.
You bet. I know the feeling, guys. Now, can we drill down to a couple specific categories that are most exciting? So, you talked about hair loss. Which ones are you guys most excited about?
You want to talk about our Keeps business, and I'll talk about myself?
We're in the Keeps business for men's hair loss, and that's how the company started back in 2016. And the intention of the design was very thoughtful, which is at that time, now you can look at the market, there are a lot of offerings, but back in 2016, people wonder whether you would be able to provide asynchronous care at scale. And that's why it was decided there's a large unmet need and large TAM, total addressable market that's out there. And the founders has the vision and actually from self-experience that the treatment can definitely help a chronic condition like hair loss. And that's where now, almost 6 years later, Keeps definitely is the market leader in this space.
Great.
The other area is women's health, and we're super excited about that. We have a saying at 30 Madison that women's health is more than reproductive care, but reproductive care is health care.
Yeah.
And so our women's health business is really looking at how do we treat women holistically, everything from birth control needs all the way to migraine needs, to dermatological needs, to mental health needs. And so really trying to build out for women an opportunity to take advantage of some of the things that Quan talked about that makes us unique. That asynchronous care that is with you when you need it at the time that you need it, and really working to really move along women's health care to really drive the access that's so sorely needed in the country right now.
Gotcha. And you were talking about DTC and versus enterprise. Can you tell us about how that blend of business works for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to-
Yes.
So as we think about DTC and enterprise, we started as a DTC company. We did that intentionally. DTC, easier market to get into. We did it with low acuity and Keeps, hair loss. Now we have 20 conditions. And the conditions we like to treat from low acuity to high acuity, and that's where enterprise comes in. So as we think about accessibility and affordability, we want to be where patients are, and some patients want to be direct to consumer, some want to be enterprise. So about 2 years ago, we were 95% kind of revenue intake from consumer. Today we're about a 70-30 split, consumer to enterprise. We also think it's one of the things that differentiates us. So one of the things that differentiates 30 Madison is we want to be in both of those places. You still see companies playing in one or the other. We want to play in both. We know that's complicated, but we think it's better for the patient at the center. Also, our whole approach to conditions, we're into chronic condition care, asynchronous specialty level care, not primary care or urgent care, for the reason that we really want to be there for where 80% of that healthcare dollar is spent.
Yeah.
So 80% of the US healthcare dollar is spent in a chronic condition. 50% of all US citizens have one, and that's where we want to be.
Yeah, and I think that's net bring back that at 30 Madison, we're building a specialty care company that treat people living with chronic conditions, right? And we know in the current US healthcare system, just being in the consumer space will not help us to transform the way the healthcare is delivered. That's why the enterprise piece is so integral to how we're going to address accessibility, affordability, outcome, and patient experience.
I want to talk about that accessibility and affordability thing, because a lot of people think about affordability driving accessibility, but the real thing that we have to look at is what is accessibility going to be someday just in terms of supply and demand on care. And so really bringing technology together with healthcare is so key to all of this, and the asynchronous care, just really a different approach, because accessibility is around affordability, but it's also just a supply and demand issue that's going to be even more and more prevalent.
Great. Now, I've got a question for you two. Having come from big pharma, I've got to wonder, you're here at the IPO Summit, do you see the company remaining independent, or could you be folded into one of these giants that, you guys know very well? You don't have to give me any secrets here, but just, big picture. Could either of those paths work?
Yeah, look, I mean, I always say I think there are three paths that could work for us. We could do an IPO that is all of the pieces that we've talked about today are really exciting. We could have a strategic buyout or a strategic partnership. So there are lots of ways that we can actually look at this. We can stay private for a little bit longer and perfect. So we've got a fair amount of paths we're looking at. But I should ask the CFO. Really. I should have immediately given that to the CFO.
As the CFO, I would advise for us to continue to focus on, regardless which path we take, which IPO could be a very viable path, is to focus on building the great company that can deliver to the vision that we set out, which is transform healthcare. So from our perspective, we'll continue to focus on building the foundational success stones so that can pave our way for the future.
Yeah, I think that's been a great message of today, right? The message that whether you're trying to be an IPO or just trying to build something, like fundamentals are so important. And I think that's a message I leave with today from the summit.
Well, perfect. I think that's a great note to end it on. Quan and Michelle, it was wonderful to meet both of you here live from the IPO Summit at the New York Stock Exchange. Thanks so much.